but
Yeah, I'd appreciate it if you didn't whack me with the book.
I think welcome to another video with Emma and Kayla with our new channel name.
Yeah.
Today we are going to be doing something called the end of your book tag.
Well, it's kind of like the end of your book
It's
tag.
more like an end of your book discussion and what are we going to do this year.
Yeah, so we were gonna do the end of your book tag, but then we were looking at the questions and we didn't really get the point of them. They didn't really make sense to us. I know we did it last year and that was fun, but we thought that this year we would turn it more into kind of a 2020 wrap up, almost, and then a plans for 2020 book wise. Probably gonna hear the same couple of titles a few times.
That happens.
Because we read a limited amount of books this year, and also we have the same general taste in books, so just we won't give you a description every time, but we'll mention them a few. So alright, so let's get started. So first we have our Goodreads statistics for 2020. So why don't you start?
So my goal for 2020 was to read 50 books. I read 43, which I think is fine. Thank you. I was just kind of like, if I finish it, I finish it. If I don't, I don't. It's like this last week just kind of was chill. I was like, I'll read when I want to read. I am enjoying the book I'm reading, or the books, plural, that I'm reading right now, which we'll talk to you about later. Like, I told my mom, quality versus quantity. Like, I would rather read a book that I really like and take my time with it versus a book that I don't really enjoy but I'm reading for the sake of reading, which I did do this year, which is, I would not recommend it.
So for me, I read 28 out of 30 books, which I'm pretty proud of myself.
I'm still clapping.
Thank you. I'm pretty proud of myself. I was a little disappointed because I really wanted to finish this year, and I did kind of the opposite of what Kayla just said. I speed read like for the last week of December, and it did pay off. I finished a whole audiobook in like a 10-part audiobook in
a few days.
6 days, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
Then I read the rest of a book that I'm going to mention. Yeah, I'm good with it. It's more than I read last year, and I'm just grateful that I was able to read that much, because I know I went into some reading slumps this year, much like a lot of other people. Yeah, because of what's been going on, it's kind of hard to focus on things.
Elusive illusions.
Yeah, so I'm proud. I'm good with that.
What are your goals for 2021?
So for me, my goals for 2021 are to read 35 books, which I know what you're thinking. You couldn't even read 30. Why are you going to 35? But I'm doing that because I really think I can reach 30. Also because for our school curriculum next year, our mom is going to be adding a whole lot of books. It's very much centered around books. So I'll be reading a lot more, and that'll be marking off more books. So rather than just recreational reading, which was most of this year. And then along with that, I also want to try and read more genres rather than dystopian. I just want to expand, and I think I'm going to start with historical fiction. I'm not really sure, but that sounds interesting. We'll see if that actually works.
My answers were, I want to read 50 books. And last year, again, my goal was 50 and I didn't meet it. The year before that, my goal was 100 and I didn't meet it more, and I thought, if I could get within 7 books of my goal this year with just free reading alone, I could probably reach it next year with this added constant reading.
Next question is, what are you currently reading? Is that where we left off? Yeah, what are we currently reading? So go ahead.
I am currently reading quite a few books. I am reading Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. I really like this book, which I read a review that pointed out something really important. This is literally just a retelling of Twilight. Yeah, in Edward's perspective. So don't expect, like, a new storyline or anything. Like, it's literally just Twilight with some scenes added in that, you know, Bella obviously wouldn't have seen, which I like this book. I do. It's just, it's huge. Look at that. And then I'm reading also Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, which I remember Emma freaking out about
it's
the
so
cover.
pretty.
in our midnight book freakout tag. Oh,
Mid-year.
Gosh, that sounds like a new tag. The physical book. Ooh, small books. Okay. Then I am technically reading this book, Hunting Prince Dracula, Carrie Maniscalco, but I only got 6 pages in, so it's fine. The first book was about, this is a sequel, and as far as I know, it's continuing the story about Audrey Rose. She's basically like, she's a woman in, I think it's like 1800s, Europe, I think. They're going to Romania, and she's going to a forensic school. And then I think what happens is, like, there's a bunch of murders, and they have to figure out, and then people think it's like this prince awoken from the dead, kind of like tropey vampire stuff, and she has to figure it out with her friend and like all of that stuff. So this is a sequel to another book I will talk about later. And then again, I'm technically reading Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I think I'm gonna DNF this. It's not my favorite book. It's a fine book. I just am not interested enough for it to hold my attention. I'd much rather read these other 3 books. So what about you after my long speech about books?
I'm reading 2 books. I'm reading Midnight Sun, which Kayla already showed you. It's literally just a retelling of Twilight. I like it. So far, I'm almost done with it. Be prepared, though. Edward has some pretty depressing thoughts. So I've had to put it down a few times because I wasn't feeling too good, and like mentally rather than physically, and seeing all of his like
Self-lamenting.
like self-loathing thoughts. I was just kind of like,
Yeah, don't read it if you're depressed.
just hold on, you know.
Yeah.
But it's still a good book. I like it. I'm also reading Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. Reading that on audiobook. Dream Thieves is the second book in the Raven Cycle series.
Next question is, what are you reading next or for the foreseeable future?
So like I've said before, I am a mood reader. So this is just what I know I'm going to be reading within the next couple of months. Radiant Girls by Kate Moore. As far as I know, this is a book about these girls who went to work at a factory that had to do with radium. Mom said they like painted clocks and things with radium, and they ended up getting really, really sick, and nobody believed that their claims that it was because of the radium, and so this is their story. It's historical fiction, so like I said, I'm gonna try and go into this. I'm gonna be reading the rest of the Raven Cycle, like I've mentioned. And then this book that's at the very bottom of my stack, hold on. It's Momofuku Milk Bar by Christina Tosi. It's so pretty. I'm gonna be flipping through this through the year. I think I'm really excited because Christina Tosi is a baker that I really, really look up to. She runs the Milk Bar. I think it's in New York. It's super pretty, and I'm excited to work through this. I don't know if this is kind of the books we're supposed to be talking about, but I wanted to include it. So here you go, YouTube.
It's a cookbook. So I kind of answered this question wrong, so I'm just kind of going to do this on the fly here. Really, the only books that I know I am definitely going to read next are Hunting Prince Dracula again. But besides that, really just Cassandra Clare books. I've been listening to those on audiobook, so probably like the sequels to The Eldest Curses, I think it was called, the Alec and Magnus book. The Dark Artifices. Is that what? Artifices. And then the other one with Tessa. What?
I don't know.
The Clockwork Angel and stuff like that. Those are things that I want to read. I don't know when, but I like listening to them on audiobook, so.
What were your top 5 favorite books of 2020?
So I had a lot of favorite books.
Yeah, if you had to pick, obviously.
These are in no specific order, by the way.
Go ahead.
First of all, Twilight series, which do I really need to explain this to you? Vampire meets human, and then instant trouble. Yeah, I really loved all of these books. Whole series. I'm counting the whole series for this. And then the next one is Your Welcome Universe by Whitney Gardner. I really loved this book. It's about basically this kid she goes to a school for deaf people or people with impaired hearing. And then she does something that gets her expelled, and then she has to go through like finding a new school. And so she's a graffiti artist, and she's doing that sort of thing. And then she gets in this graffiti war with someone, and the whole book basically centers around her life and her friendships, her struggles, her graffiti war, trying to figure out who it was, all of that. Mm-hmm. And it was really good.
I did not like it as much, but That's just my opinion.
Next up, The Fault in Our Stars.
I'm so
By
excited.
John Green. I love this book. It was so nerdy and great.
Apparently, I'm giving the synopsis. So based off of my memory, I read this about a year ago. It's about a girl named Hazel, not Levesque, Hazel Lancaster. She has
Hazel Grace.
cancer.
She has lung cancer, I believe.
Yeah, you remember better than I do. But she has lung cancer, and she ends up going to the support group and meeting a guy named Augustus Waters, who I can't tell you his significance in the story because
That's literally the whole story.
The story is about them, so I don't want to spoil it too much. But it's just basically about their roller coaster ride of being kids who have or had or used to have cancer, and kind of their
journey.
Their journey.
But Emma has a review of this book up on our YouTube channel if you want to go check it out. She did it like a year ago.
I'll put all the links below.
Next for me is the new Trials of Apollo book, which is called The Tower of Nero. I really liked this book. But it was more because it brought back my favorite characters, and that's what I needed at that point. So it was more, again, I tell everybody why I read The Trials of Apollo. It's not the best book ever, but I really enjoyed being in that world. Basically, I don't want to go into the whole Trials of Apollo thing, but basically Apollo falls to the earth. Like, 11-year-old becomes his master. I don't remember how old she is, and then he has to, like, save people and do heroic stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. I like seeing all the characters again. That's mainly, again, why I read them. Again, it's by Rick Riordan. I don't know if I said that. Next for me is The Art of Being Normal by Lisa... Oh, my computer's... Lisa Williamson. This book was really great. I loved it. It's about basically two kids who both... How do I explain this book? I don't know how to explain it other than...
One of them aspires to be transgender.
Right.
There's one kid, I forgot their name.
David.
In the beginning. So in the beginning, their name is David, and they aspire to be transgender. So again, it's kind of their journey on trying to figure out how to tell the people that they love that they want to be transgender because they're afraid, but they're also trying to that's what they really, really want. That's how they feel, but they're still kind of stuck in the middle of what they want to do. And then there's another kid, Leo. His opinion is put in there, and his viewpoint is put in there as well. Again, can't really tell you much more. But
it's a really good book, though.
It's a good book, and it's set in Europe. Sorry for the vague description, but again, the entire story surrounds those two.
And then the final one I listed, besides Cassandra Clare's books, I'm just going to put that up there because I liked those books this year, but Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. I loved this book. It was so great.
I couldn't read it.
So it's the predecessor of Hunting Prince Dracula. It's basically about Audrey Rose again, and she has to figure out, it centers around the Jack the Ripper story. And she's basically just trying to figure out who did it, and like all the murders are going on, and then there's also like a love interest and like all this stuff, and it's so good because I don't know if it's just because I don't read a lot of like mystery thrillers or whatnot, but I just thought it was so good. But I don't recommend it to people who are grossed out by things like autopsies or like, because
I couldn't read it.
It's pretty graphic. It's not super bad. Like, if you can get over that to get to the other parts of the story that are really cool, it's great. But if you're bothered by murders or autopsies or things like that, don't.
My top 5 favorite books were The Hate You Give, my beautiful cover here. It's The Hate You Give, it just doesn't have a dust cover, by Angie Thomas. I've mentioned this a few times, so a brief description. It's just a girl named Star. One of her best friends, I cannot remember his name. Khalil. I'm probably saying that name wrong, but he gets shot by a police officer. For literally, the police officer thought he had a gun, he didn't. And it's kind of just, I've phrased books this way a lot in this video, but her journey of coming to terms with her best friend being shot and killed by a police officer, which wouldn't be the first time, and her trying to decide whether she wants to speak up about it or not. Yeah, I really, really like this book. I don't really know why. It just was extremely interesting to me, yeah. I feel like it was a good book to read this year, especially because when I started reading it, it was around when the protests started happening. So it was kind of fantastically timed. The Twilight Saga.
Sorry.
The Twilight Saga. Kayla mentioned it, so I don't have to go over it again. Hamilton, The Revolution by Jeremy McCarter and Lin-Manuel Miranda. This is Kayla's. This is a book about, it's like a coffee table book about the making of the musical Hamilton. Has some fantastic pictures and a lot of
Cannot find a single one.
like background information about how it got started and kind of the process.
That's Philippa Sue.
Yeah, that was Philippa Sue. Just the musical itself, I love Hamilton, so it was really fun to flip through. The Raven Boys, which I realized I didn't give a quick synopsis, so here we go. It's surrounded around 5 people: Blue Sergeant, Gansey, Noah, Ronan, and Adam. And they're looking for this entity, like this long-lost king called Glendower in Henrietta, Virginia. I think it was Virginia. They're twisting and turning right of trying to find him. And then also, Blue has this prophecy where if she kisses her true love, her true love will die. So she's also trying to come to grips with that.
Fantastic.
And it sounds incredibly boring, but it's really interesting, actually. It's also one of those books that you can just listen to and not really have to focus on it, but keeps you interested, so I like it. And then lastly, I wasn't really sure about this one, but Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I really like this book. I don't really feel like I have to give a synopsis because Kayla did her review on that. So if you want to hear more about this, go watch that video. Just these 4 girls and their life in... I don't remember that much about it, honestly.
Oh, and the next question is, what were the 3, or I guess 4, most shocking books of the year?
It was supposed to be 3, but Kayla picked 4. I said Twilight. I was not expecting to really like it. In fact, the entire time I was reading it, it was solid 3 stars for me. Kind of liked it, kind of didn't. But once I'd read the entire series, I realized how fantastic it actually was. The Art of Being Normal, Kayla mentioned that. I started reading it, I didn't really like it, but then I sat down and gave it a chance, and it was actually a really fun book. And then Heart Talk by Cleo Wade. This is a collection of, I think it's described as poetic wisdom, about kind
life.
Just life and like loving yourself. And I started this last year, and I kind of slowly drudged my way through it because I'm not really one to read things like this, but I finished it this year, and actually like 3 days ago. And I really liked the last couple of pages of it. I don't really remember the beginning, but I think this is going to be something that whenever I'm upset or I'm not feeling too good, I'll probably just flip to a page, read something. It was good. I recommend it.
For me, it was Stalking Jack the Ripper again. That was such a good book. I was a little nervous because I get freaked out by like horror stuff very easily. So I was nervous, but I was like, I'm just gonna read it. And I really liked it. And then, of course, The Fault in Our Stars. And then The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. But this was such, like, I remember reading this and thinking, oh, this is just gonna be like a book I read for school and then we'll move on, right? But the ending, like, shocked me. I think I gasped, actually, when I realized it. It was good. This was a good book. It's about a kid named Bruno, I think. It's set in World War II, and he basically moves with his family to something called Outwith. And he basically just has to deal with life there. Like, he's zero happy about it. He is, he just doesn't like it there. And then he meets this kid named Shmuel, I think is how you pronounce his name. And they're pretty similar, and he starts talking, and then they become friends, and all of the stuff that happens after that. It was really good. And then I wrote possibly The Art of Being Normal, because I remember that one. It was like slightly a mystery book, but not like, the genre wasn't mystery, but it was one of those books where just things kept coming out, and you were like trying to guess what it was. Yeah.
Top 3 favorite books from 2020 that someone recommended to you.
Okay, they're basically the same. The Art of Being Normal, Your Welcome Universe, Stalking Jack the Ripper. Twilight, actually. I pointed to this. Twilight, actually, except I think Mom suggested it to you, and I read it. And then The Fault in Our Stars. All of those.
They're all ones that I've mentioned. Twilight from my mom, Hamilton, The Revolution from Kayla, and then The Raven Boys from a group of friends that I have. They're obsessed with it, and so I thought I'd give it a shot.
Books that were so good, you picked it up all the time and read it very, very fast.
I said The Hate You Give, Midnight Sun, and The Raven Boys. It just was one of those things where I was constantly reading them, and if I wasn't, I was thinking about reading them. So, what about you?
I just wrote basically all the books on my favorite list, because that's how I know if I like a book, is I'm constantly reading it. Maybe Midnight Sun? Not quite sure. And then some of Cassandra Clare's books that I've been listening on audiobook, though, to be.
What was your favorite book to movie adaptation that you watched in 2020?
Little Women.
I almost said 2019.
Which, the Little Women, the 2019 version, which we did watch it in 2020. And I've watched it several times after that. It's really good.
Yeah.
And then I just wrote Twilight. I liked The Fault in Our Stars too, but I don't know if it was my favorite, so I watched it this year, though.
I said, Little Women.
So what is a book to movie or book to TV show adaptation that you are looking forward to in 2021?
I really want to watch The Hate You Give. I have not watched it yet. But that's on my list of things to do.
I want to watch Pride and Prejudice, the one on Netflix. I know that people get all upset about, like, the one with this actor is better than this one. I don't know which one it is. It's on Netflix, and I want to watch it, because I don't think I'm going to finish the book, so.
Most disappointing book to movie adaptation was
Artemis Fowl.
Oh my goodness.
That was so good.
It's the same thing as, like, the Percy Jackson movies. It wasn't a bad movie.
I didn't even watch the whole thing.
Yeah, but from what I watched, it wasn't a bad movie. It just wasn't good for the book, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was like it was like they took the pieces and moved them all around.
Yeah. And then I also put for mine, Simon, Love Simon for Simon versus the Homo sapiens
Did we watch that this year?
Yes, we did. Again, decent movie. Just, it still had the same feeling from the book, but it just was not right, in my opinion.
The next question is, what is the most disappointing book that you read this year?
I put Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, and I actually bent my copy. I put this because I was extremely excited to read this book. I read it, and it was not... I liked the concept, but I found it extremely confusing. I could never quite tell what was going on, but I'm glad I tried it. Yeah, I would rather I tried it. If you don't know, this book is about a guy named Guy Montag. I'm probably saying the name wrong, but that's fine. His name is Guy, and he's a firefighter, but not the firefighter that you would expect. He burns books, so if someone is seen having a book, they're reported to the firemen, and they come and they burn the entire house down.
Ooh.
And then Guy is having conflicted feelings about that.
I don't really have a book for this question. I had books that weren't my favorite, but I don't think that I really had a book that I was, like, super excited about and then was just like, are you kidding me? This was not a good book. Although I will say that the end of The Art of Being Normal, I remember going in Emma's room being like, I object to this ending. It was
She
not...
did, yeah.
I was like, that... I feel like that was the wrong ending. But then again, I'm not the author. Next question is, what was the hardest book, or I guess a handful of hard books to get through?
So mine was a tie between Little Women and Artemis Fowl. Here we go. I already mentioned Little Women, but Artemis Fowl is about a 12-year-old kid named Artemis Fowl, and he's a diabolical genius, and he tries to explode fairies. If you read the book, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And then it follows him, and then this other fairy called Holly. Can't remember what her last name is.
Short.
Holly Short.
Basically, Artemis is trying to achieve something. I don't remember what
He's trying to regain his father's fortune
by
by making a deal with the fairies.
Right, and then the fairies are like, no, that's not okay, and trying to stop it.
Yeah, and it's back and forth. But it's interesting. But the reason why I picked these two was this one, because it's long. And I mentioned one time in a review that I wrote, it takes effort to paint the picture for me, because it is such a, I wouldn't say advanced, but it's not Artemis Fowl book. It's, let's say, intricate. It's an intricate book, and so it takes a bit more effort to paint the picture. So I would save this for times when I was really interested in reading, if that makes sense. And then Artemis Fowl, I think it was just a slow beginning. I just wasn't really in the mood to read most of the time when we were reading this for our book club. So it took me a while to get through it. But once I hit the climax, I was in it.
I picked quite a few books. All of them are pretty much for the same reason. Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi. I apologize. Pride and Prejudice. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I'm not going to give you any, like, synopses. Or The Toll by Neil Shusterman. A lot of them, I think, were just because, like, I liked the book again, but it didn't hold my attention. Or, like, it wasn't... Remember earlier how I said I know I like a book if I keep coming back to it? These were more books that I was like,
oh, just started
it's time to read now. Let's read. Or, like, it wasn't like The Art of Being Normal, where I would literally... Or, like, Stalking, where I would eat it while I was eating breakfast. Or, like, I don't know. They were just books that I associate, like, dragging feelings with. Like, I'm just trying to get through it so I can move on.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about Little Women. Like, I wanted to read it, but it was difficult for me.
Okay. On to 2021. Let's try to fly through this one.
These are our plans for 2021. Couple of questions, and then we'll be done. Do you have a book to transition to the new year?
Not really. Unless you count Midnight Sun.
I don't really have one, although I'm told Emma by Jane Austen is a good winter read. I don't know much about it, so I can't give you a synopsis, but maybe next year I'll read this.
Is there a new release you're looking forward to this year?
No. Not to my knowledge, anyway.
Again, no, unless Cassandra Clare comes out with more books for her other series, Shadowhunter books.
What are 3 books you are looking forward to reading in 2021?
Again, Midnight Sun, Hunting Prince Dracula, and Cassandra Clare books.
Alright, for me, as I've mentioned, I'm more of a mood reader, but I put down Momofuku Milk Bar, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, it is. Don't know much about it. I think it has to do with royalty. Like, a guy meets a prince and then they fall in love or something. I honestly cannot remember. And then The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne, which Kayla already talked about. Oh, and then I'm also reading the rest of the Raven Cycle series. Now, the final question, which I came up with, that Kayla was extremely reluctant to answer. We're going to use this as, like, our closer, because it's kind of a difficult question to answer, but we're still going to do it. So, the final question is, if you had to pick one book to suggest to a friend from 2020, out of the ones that you've read, which one would it be?
I would suggest Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. I really like this book. Again, I would recommend it to someone who's looking for, like, a mystery sort of book that's still kind of creepy. And again, it's disturbing, it's gross, it's violent, but if you can look past all of that, it's really good. I will admit that my stomach was roiling sometimes while I was reading it, but it's just like, keep going.
I picked The Raven Boys, meaning the first book of the Raven Cycle series. I chose it because it's an interesting story. It's not too hard to follow. You could put it on... I read it as an audiobook, and I was able to listen to it while I was doing other things without it distracting me, but it was also keeping my attention at the same time. Has some great characters and a twisting plot. Again, not too hard, not too twisting that you're confused, but enough to keep you reading it. Mm-hmm. And it may not be for everybody, because, like, I really loved it. Kayla kind of liked it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a nice book, and that most people would like it if they gave it a shot. It is also fairly long, but it's fine.
Alright, that is it.
That was
a long time.
This is going to be a very long video. But thank you for bearing with us if you're here at the end. If you love watching people ramble about books, you're on the right channel. I'll say it one more time. Kayla and I have our Goodreads accounts linked below. So we did some reviews of the books mentioned in today's video. So Those are on those links. Like, share with your friends, and if you want to see more of our faces, please feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye. This is also one of the first videos that we actually have notes. So
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
I always write notes. Well, I 90% of the time write notes when we do this.
We actually have
She
our
wins it.
computers out.
I feel
Most
like
of
Brad Mondo.
we're all outlined in red and we look like demons. Mainly.
Then I could probably. Why do I always do that? Ooh, look at that.
Yeah, we're right in front of a window, so with the blinds, and it like makes it
Oh, that's a pretty. Okay, sorry, I'm just admiring this. But
yeah, I'd appreciate it if you didn't whack me with the book.
I think I'm gonna. I think, did you read that?
I think it was
June.
in May or June.
I can't
I'm not-
remember back that far. I'm sorry. The parent approaches. Not John Boing.
She wrote in her note, boing, not boing.
I was trying to guess what was gonna happen, and I thought that I was so smart. I was like, "That's a red herring. That's a red herring. That's not true. Stop trying to trick me." And then I was like, "Nope, totally wrong." Here's all of those.
That was 5, but
Those
okay.
were wait, no, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Oh, it was. This meme that said, "When you realize that 2021 is literally 2021, as in WON, it won."